Hi, welcome to the STTech Go session regarding TRIRIGA UX framework. My name is Raphael Marcondes, and today I'm going to talk about the triplat-auth-check, which is a new component we are delivering this release. First of all, let's talk about our agenda for this session. I will start by providing you a short description about the component, then I will show you how to use it. Soon after, I will handle a quick demo so that you will be able to see how we can check the licenses and the security groups of the current user at runtime. So stay with me and let's get started. As the triplat-auth-check is a new component, you can use it across all your applications that are based on the UX framework. It has its own documentation page, which is a handy guide if you find yourself with questions. So you might want to use the triplat-auth-check in cases where you need to verify if a user has access to certain apps. As I said earlier, it is a runtime license and security check so that you can make use of it in order to provide different application behaviors. For instance, you can decide whether or not you show a delete button according to the permissions held by the user. And jumping to more technical points, the component offers a proper binding called auth, which we are going to discuss later on. Also, there is an event fired when a check is completed. So let's take a look at how we can use it. Before putting any component tag into your application, you must import it, right? And that's the same for the triplat-auth-check. Also, when implementing it, you should take care of two properties and one event. The app name property refers to the exposed application name of the UX app you would like to check the user's permissions against. During the demo, I'm going to show you what this exposed application name is. So don't panic, it's a piece of cake. The second property is the auth property, and it is the helpful binding I already mentioned. It has 5 Boolean values representing every access the user has. Finally, the check complete event can be used to trigger processes that were waiting for the authentication check to be completed. Now, time to have fun. Let's talk very quickly about our demo app. I will be using 5 different users, and each of these users will have a different security group. This way, you will be able to see how it works. Also, I will remove a license from my environment so that we will get a message in our app saying that a license is missing. The demo app is a very simple application I created only for this STTech Go session, so it will not be delivered along with our shipping apps. And it has 3 squares, and each of these squares represent an application. The first application is called room reservation. The second one is called employee app, and the third one is called fields testing app. So what do we want to do here? We want to play around with all the security access a user can have, like create, read, update, and delete, and also understand the licenses behind the scenes. Remember when I told you about the exposed application name that we should use for the triplat-auth-check? Let's take a look at that real quick. Let me show you the list of the applications I have in my environment. So for each application, we have this exposed name column. So this is the name you should use there in your triplat-auth-check tag for checking the licenses and security groups for each user. As I told you, I'm going to use this second app called employee app, this third one, and also the last one, the room reservation one. Also, I told you that I will be using 5 different users, right? And each user has a different security group. Let me show you how I created the security group and which access a security group has. So you can see here the employee read-only security group. Let's open this up. By going to the Access tab, we can see that the security group has only the read permission to the employee model. Similarly, if we take a look at the employee read and update security group, we can see that this group has read and update permission to the employee model. And I did the same for the fields testing read and update and the fields testing read only. And also I will be using an admin user, which will have this admin group as its main group. Now going back to the demo app, you can see there are 3 different applications here. So there will be 3 different auth-check tags into our implementation code. Let's take a look. You can see the first triplat-auth-check tag is checking permissions against the room reservation application. Remember the exposed application name I told you earlier. The second one is checking the permissions for the employee app. And the third is checking the permissions for the fields testing app. Also, you can see that each of these tags are binding the auth property to a different value. And finally, for each auth check tag, we have a function assigned to the onCheck complete event. This way, this function will be called when the check is completed for the room reservation. Similarly, the employee app check will be called when the check is completed for the employee app. And finally, the fields testing app check will be called when the check is completed for the fields testing app. Let's take a look at how we are leveraging the auth property binding. For each of those squares, I'm just printing the values for each access. They are can create, can read, can update, and can delete. So I'm doing the same for the room reservation, the employee app, and the fields testing app. Also, you may notice that there is a hidden attribute being used for each box. It means that the box will appear only if the user has license for the application assigned to the auth check. Now let's take a look at the functions assigned to the onCheck complete event. You can see there are 3 functions, right? The room reservation check, employee app check, and fields testing app check. They are doing the same thing, and I know I can change this design and move everything into a single function, but I'm just trying to be as easier as possible here. So it is taking the detail from the event. So this is a Polymer thing, and if you don't know something about it, please refer to any Polymer documentation. So I'm just taking the detail from the event and taking the has license value. Remember, the detail has information about the license, the can create, can read. So basically it is a auth object as well. So you can access the permissions through the auth binding or through the check complete event. So here I'm just checking the license and pushing the application name into the array so that it will do something in the application. Okay, cool. That's pretty much what we have for coding. So again, using the triplat-auth-check is very easy, is very straightforward, and yeah, very powerful, right? Because you can check licenses and permissions regarding the security groups at runtime. Now let's go back to our application and do the actual handling so that you will see how things work. Right now, I'm using my admin user, so I have all permissions and all license for everything into my environment. So you can see I have create, read, update, and delete permission for every application. Now, let's use a different user. The following user will have only read permission for the employee app. Let's take a look. You see, for this user, we don't have any permission for the room reservation app, but we still have the license, right? Remember, the last test I will be handling is one test that I will remove the room reservation license from my system so that the user will not be able to actually see the room reservation square. So here the user has the license, but has no permission. So the create is false, read is false, update is false, and delete is false. Similarly, for the fields testing app, they are all false. However, for the employee app, you see it is false for create, update, and delete, but it is true for the read permission. Let's use another user. Now you can see for this user, we have a true value for read and update. Well, you can see it is working, but you are not seeing what is behind the scenes, right? Let's take a look at the console. Let's go to network and let's refresh our application. You see, we have 3 requests here. Each request is trying to check the authorization for an application. So this first one is trying to check the authorization for the room reservation, right? So you see the JSON being returned. So it has false for can update, can read, can delete, and can create, but it has true for has license. Similarly, for the fields testing app, is true for has license, but false for any other permission. For the employee app, you see license is true, can update is true, can read is true, but can delete and can create are false. Let's do the same thing for a user against the fields testing app. Let's sign out. And let's use a different user. Now you can see they are all false for the employee app and read equals true for the fields testing app. If I use a different user, you see it is true for update and read and false for anything else. Again, let's take a look at the console. If I refresh my app and take a look at this request, you see true, 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 and false, false. For the others, all false other than has license, and similarly for the room reservation app. Now I'm going to remove the room reservation license from my environment. This way, if I log again into the application, I will not be able to see the room reservation square. So let's do that. After removing the license from my system, let's log again with the same users we used before. So let's do it for the employee read-only. You see, there is no room reservation square. And also you can see a message here saying you do not have license to display the following apps. In this case, the room reservation app. Let's try again with a different user. Again, no room reservation square and the same message. Let's take a look at the console again to see the returning for the license now. So go to network, refresh. For the employee app, we still have license. For the fields testing app, we still have license. But for the room reservation, you see that has license is now false. So you see, by using the triplat-auth-check, you are able to check any permissions or any license for the users against a UX application. Before closing this session, I would like to give you some reference materials. You can access the UX framework on IBM DeveloperWorks as well as the UX framework forum on IBM DeveloperWorks. Also, you may want to refer to the UX framework previews release for TTechCo. Thank you for joining me on this TTechCo session. I hope you like it.